again, it was a call to surrender. Well, this is how this person likes to share this experience, and then I can get into that and just appreciate that and accept that. But I also appreciate those times of this having silence and the connection that goes on through that. And and I find that there's room for that often with men, is to have that, that appreciation that comes from that silent spot. And I don't know if that's with all men or not, but I know it's certainly the case with me often that there's, especially I find in hikes or in the woods, there's almost, maybe it goes back into those roots of being hunters and, like moving through the woods in silence and just watching for, what game's going to come by. Because if we were walking along yakking away, it's like, geez, there's no game. There hasn't been any around here for years.
I find that with men, it's often the project that becomes the priority and the relationship second, although, it gets mixed up. And with women, spending time together, the relationship is really the point, and the project is almost secondary.
Right, yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Leading to project-oriented talks with guys, and if there's nothing to say, then nothing gets said. And then with women, that you end up talking a lot.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. And that like you say, that seems to be the tendency is the male energy or the masculine energy is a lot about bringing things into form, and that's important, like to bring things into form, to manifest things. And often, as you say, the female energy is about relationship and process and having a purpose behind the form, right? And that's what's so powerful about the joining of the masculine and feminine energies, right? Is that you bring them together. And on the extremes, one way you get men just building things for the sake of building things that's got no purpose and is, so-called destroying the planet.
Climbing it because it's there.
Right? And then on the other side, you if there's an extreme, you could say, well, women would just sit around and talk about it, nothing would ever get done, sort of thing. So as you bring those together, and it might be a man and a woman, or it might be what people call the masculine feminine inside or whatever, but the more we join those two together, then you get form being created out of purpose, out of a deep sense of purpose. Because relationship is all about understanding oneness and connection. And so when we create forms out of that place of oneness, then the forms are an honoring and a gift of celebration and creativity that come out of the unity of everything, right? And so there's so much offering in both of these to each other. But if we get caught in being right about one or the other, again, there's the polarization, and shut up, you talk too much. Well, get your head out of the workbench and get in here and talk, and
my husband never talks to me.
Right. So again, just that calling for the joining and the union, and so we bring that gift to each other, right? It's like you share some relationship stuff with me, and I'll share some form or manifesting with you. And I just want to point out again, this is such a total generalization.
Because women can carry the masculine energy relationship, sure.
Yeah. And that's also a danger in some of this work, because it's such a catchy thing, masculine, feminine, inside, and then the masculine means, dealing with the world and money and all these sort of issues, job issues, etc. And we can just kind of flip it off, and then the woman's about nurturing and, family, etc. Well, that can be very confusing if we get caught in that tool and hang on to it with a belief system, especially for people where they were raised with two parents that play the opposite roles, right? woman was, the center of the household and the one that was bringing in the bread or whatever, and you're finding more and more as time goes on where there's movement where the man can be the one that's, hanging out with the kids and doing the household things. And so if we're saying attributing all these traits to masculine and all these other traits to feminine, in a way it's a real dangerous term to put on them, because it's not really masculine energy and feminine energy, although that's sort of a handy way to talk about it. But it's this particular traits that all people carry, so I know sometimes in my work I use those terms because it's so familiar with some people, and at the same time it's something that I'm a little bit cautious with, that it's something to watch for, that it can confuse people.
It's almost as if this has become men's territory and down here is women's territory, and we've job sharing almost.
Oh, right. Yeah, I never thought about it that way before, but yeah, that could very much tie into that place of neediness that men and women seem to have with each other, and what some people term as codependence, or like, okay, I'll look after this part and you look after that part, and so we'll set up this false set of neediness so we can create a relationship based on neediness, and rather than two whole beings that got heart and vision working together, that share in co-creativity, or a true partnership, right? But there's a lot of fear in that, because if we or I shouldn't say there's a fear in that, because when we do feel whole and complete, of course, we're not in a place of fear. But when I look at that from a place of feeling incomplete, I go, oh my God, that's terrifying. If I just let my partner see her as whole, she doesn't need me anymore, and she might leave, right? Or, if people are in really, whatever sort of partnership people are in, whether it be any kind of relationship that people are in. It's interesting how it almost seems like a setup to keep each other locked in, so we don't have to face our own abandonment or fear of loss, and yet it robs us of our freedom, right, and our own sense of being in power. Yeah, thanks, that's a good one.